These are some bike repair mistakes that I reckon we've all made. So if you haven't, keep watching and I'll tell you what not to do. Before I get into the first mistake, which is really stupid, it's one that I still do, make sure you hit that subscribe button to subscribe to the Global Mountain Bike Network. Numero uno, it's really stupid, loads of idiots do it, I still do it all the time, it's really annoying and I like laughing at other people when they do it, is putting the tyre on the wrong way around. Especially with tubeless tyres, you go through all that rigmarole of, swapping your sealant, it's messy, sometimes they don't pump up straight away, you got to get the thing to seal, you pump it up, you stick your wheel on and then you realise, oh look, it's the wrong way around. I think, it's probably going to work okay. I know tyres are designed to work one way. Probably gonna work all right, but I think you just look stupid. People will notice. So, best way to do it, I think, is to, the way I do it, is have the rotor side of my wheel and then find the rotation mark on the tyre. That's what you idiots and me need to find. It says rotation, there's an arrow. Tells you which way to put it around. So keep the rotor on the left, so I'm looking down the bike kind of thing. Work it out, stick it on, Bob's your uncle, you'll never do it again. Most of the bolts on your bike will have a torque spec printed next to them, so you know how tight to make it, so you don't go crazy. Stem says 6 Newton meters there, on my seat clamp says 6. So you will find a lot of them printed. If you can't, then go online, find the instructions, you will find a Newton meter torque spec for them. After a while, I find, if you're experienced, you kind of probably won't do this. I have done this in the past. A long time ago, I ruined some stem bolt threads by over-tightening them. Haven't done that in years. However, great way of avoiding it completely is buying a torque wrench. So this one here, I've got the most common, 4, 5, and 6 Newton meters. So once you tighten them up, so let's grab the 6 Newton meter one, it'll start spinning so that you can't over-tighten that bolt. And hey presto. If you get that horrible feeling of tightening it and then it goes loose again, you know that you've over-tightened it. But don't fret, most of these things can be fixed. Something like a component like a stem, you could probably just drill it out and get a helicoil or a thread repair in there. Parts of the bike, most full suspension bikes, you probably just get another insert to go in the frame, but do be careful. Some parts aren't as easy to fix as others. Internal cable routing is great, I love it. Looks amazing. Except for when you lose a cable inside the frame when you're coming to replace one. Then I very much don't love it and the tools get thrown, I swear, a lot. But you can be extra careful with this. If you're replacing an internal gear cable, then just make sure you leave something inside the frame. So whip out the old internal, but leave the outer inside the frame. I'm always trying to do that. You can do the same with the external as well, leave an internal one in, and it really helps you thread it through the bike. You can sometimes with bikes, take the seat post out to get access in, use a grabber tool, something magnetic. Part do a really good set of magnetic tools that go through the bike to help you in those occasions. But I would say be careful, try not to just whip all the cables out, because then you can have a real trouble trying to get back in. A lot of bikes these days, having said that, do have internal proper sort of channels for the cable routing, which makes it a lot easier. Tubeless explosions can happen in a couple of different ways. Sometimes you can just be pumping the tyre up, maybe you put a new one on there, you filled it full of sealant, pumping it up to get it to sort of ping onto the bead, and it over pings, the bead just comes off the rim and boom, stuff goes everywhere. Sealant on the wall, sealant all over your clothes, which is why I often change into some old clothes if I'm going to be changing tyres, because that sealant doesn't come out of clothes. There's a tip for you. Second version of tubeless explosion is if you want to top up your sealant, I often now do it just straight through the valve. You can get your bottle and squeeze it through. So you need to take the valve core out. Just remember, you need to let the tyre down before you let the valve core out, because if you just undo that, and you haven't, it will explode. Just ask Doddy. Using the wrong lube for your bike is actually going to wear it out much quicker. For example, there's a few different options for chain lube. You've got dry and wet, for example. So dry is actually dry weather lube. So when it's nice and sunny and dry, that's great. It's nice and light. It will lube your chain, but dust and horrible stuff won't stick to your chain and turn it into grinding paste. Whereas a wet lube is going to be better when the conditions are rainy, so it doesn't just wash out like a dry lube will. The rain won't wash it away. It's nice and thick, it will keep your chain nice and oiled up. However, if you use that in the dry, dust and mud will stick to your chain and again, turn it into grinding paste. So get that right and your chain will last much longer. So your pedals are stuck on your bike. Rule number one is to make sure you grease the threads, because without that, they can get seized in there. And then make sure you're turning them the right way. Now, I always think of it as turning towards the back of the bike. So stick your Allen key or your pedal spanner in the back or wherever it goes. So you see it like that? I'm gonna push it down because that's turning towards the back of the bike. On this side, again, put it in the back like that and push down towards the back of the bike. Sometimes if they are seized, you need a bit of persuasion, and your nice little ratchet thing isn't the thing to do it with because you can break that. So go to your bigger tool. If it is an 8mm, like a lot of pedals are nowadays, get your biggest 8mm Allen key you've got, stick it in the back, try and get it at a nice angle like that. Now I will use my persuader, so I'll hold on to the other crank. I'm going to use my weight with your foot. You can sometimes do it with your hand, but you risk punching the floor very hard when it goes loose. So I like to do it with my foot. Just make sure, like I said, you're doing it the right way and don't use your delicate little tools. Use the biggest one you've got. If you've got an aluminium or steel frame, it's really important that you grease the seat post. Or what I would do is actually put grease inside the seat tube and then insert the post. Because in bad conditions, in the wet and the grit, actually your seat post can get corroded and seize itself solid inside your frame. In really bad cases, it's almost impossible to get them out. I've seen bike shops clamp seats into a vise and then use the whole bike as a lever to try and get it undone. In the very worst case, you might have to get a blowtorch onto the frame, sort of free them up, and that's going to at least damage the paint. So that's a bit of a last resort. If you have a carbon frame, then use either grease or carbon gripper paste inside that seat tube. Stop it from slipping, but your chances of that seat post seizing your frame is greatly reduced. Right, get involved in the comment section down below. Let me know the biggest repair mistakes you've done. I've seen people take their forks apart without letting the air out. That's a big explosion. That's dangerous. Don't do that. And also, don't forget to subscribe to GMBN Tech for all your techie needs.